Orbital speed is a speed that is so fast, even with no lift, even while falling, you don't. Because the Earth
Let's
literally
all take a
curves
sit
away
and
from you
enjoy
as
in a
fast
burning
as you
themselves
fall
to the
to
ground while they laugh at you for 800-year-old plague. Can't handle their country, they have to go in space. Peaceful protests, Pepe laugh. Let's loot innocent businesses for George Trehar.
towards it. This is what astronauts in the International Space Station are really doing. They're falling. It's a common misconception that astronauts float around weightless in space because there is no gravity there. But there's plenty of gravity. In fact, there's pretty much the same amount of gravity operating on them that there is operating on you right now while you watch this video. Believe it or not, if we built a tower all the way up to where the International Space Station orbits, 370,000 meters high, and you walked out onto the top of that tower, it would feel kind of like this. You would just be walking around like I'm walking right now. You wouldn't feel that much different. But the International Space Station would be whizzing by at 17,000 miles per hour. It has to, because they are falling. So to say that astronauts float around in orbit because they are experiencing zero gravity is very misleading. Really what they are feeling is zero G, where G is acceleration felt as weight.
I said 0G though.
Hurts. So
But I
good.
thought the G stood
Because
for
gravity's
gravity.
limiting influence ensures that we develop correctly and healthily. After all, it is what we were born to thrive in. So asking what a human would look like if conceived, gestated, delivered, and raised in orbit would look like requires a discussion of weightlessness. Realistically, people building colonies on planets beyond Earth or traveling through space for long periods of time who expected new humans to be born would utilize technology that helped mimic conditions here on Earth. But until artificial gravity is perfected and can be easily implemented, it's important to understand the effect
Wait,
weightlessness
I have a
has
question
on
then.
our biology and other.
How are they, you know, I don't know if you've ever been to an amusement park and gone on one of those free fall rides. But if you have, or if actually, you know, when you go into a fucking roller coaster and it goes, you know, free fall for a bit, kinda, you know, in a very steep, whatever. Does it feel the same for them? What, constantly? Like in the start and then they get used to it? Half of you are saying no, half of you are saying yes. Like, is that how it feels like? Are they like, do they feel like they're falling in the fucking start? You know what I mean?
Other things. For instance, in a zero-G environment, hot air doesn't rise. So a candle flame is not shaped
But
like
you
a
gain
stretched
speed on a
ball
roller
of
coaster, they
glowing
don't. Yeah,
gas
but that's why I
drawn
said in the
upward.
start.
Instead,
They
it's
feel like they're
just
like,
a
until they hit
round
maximum
ball of hot gas.
acceleration, right?
We are not sure
Or
we can
maximum
make
speed.
babies in space. The logistics of merely hugging are difficult enough. A recent invention called the two-suit might make it easier. The two-suit provides effortless intimacy in weightless environments, such as outer space or on planets
What?
with low gravity. But will it be enough to ensure that conception happens? The enzyme responsible for stopping
Wait, what the
make
fuck
it
did I
easier,
just-
the two-suit provides effortless intimacy in weightless environments, such as outer space or on
Effortless
planets with
intimacy?
low gravity. But will it be
Effortless
enough
fucking?
to ensure that conception happens? The enzyme responsible for stopping the movement of a sperm cell's tail doesn't work very well when
Fuck
there's
space, they
zero
need to add
G.
that shit in real life.
space, sperm swim faster. One thing we know about babies inside mothers in space involves the development of the vestibular system, canals in the inner ear that use the flow of fluid to determine movement, up versus down, and balance. In a zero-G environment, the fluid in the vestibular system just floats around. It's confused, and this can lead to motion sickness, visual illusions, and disorientation. It's
Visual
called
illusions.
space adaptation syndrome, and it affects about 50% of astronauts. Confusion about motion can make you vomit, car sick, seasick, zero-G sick because of survival. It's believed that motion sickness, a confusion about acceleration, is similar to the effects caused by the consumption of poisonous plants, in which case vomiting can save your life. Pregnant rats taken to space
Wait,
give birth
what?
to babies back
Is
on
that
Earth
why you
that
throw
struggle
up?
with directions.
Is
Unlike
that why
rat
the body
babies that
throws up?
gestated
Like if
here
you're
on
car
Earth,
sick or
the ones that
seasick?
gestated in space have trouble righting themselves when
Damn.
thrown into water. They do tend to be better at processing orientations common during weightlessness, which is a good sign
Well, I never
for
thought about
humans,
it. Why would
gestated,
you
born,
throw
and
up?
raised in space, but it's some of the only good news.
You throw up because you feel
Vestibular
sick.
fluid isn't the only fluid to be
you
affected
feel
by the
sick
zero-G
because of
environment.
motion
All of your
sickness
body fluids are.
that you
On
have.
Earth, gravity pulls those fluids
But it's actually
down.
the body trying
But
to get
in
rid
orbit,
of
the fluid is free to
the motion
evenly
sickness by
distribute,
throwing up.
giving astronauts their
Because it relates
characteristic
to
bird
poison.
legs and puffy faces. Cosmetically, it's kind of a bummer. And all of that new fluid pressure in your face
very
can
interesting.
compromise vision. Of 27 astronauts studied after long space flights, 9 had fluid expansion around the optic nerve, 6 had eyeballs flattened in the back by fluid pressure, and 4
Oh.
had bulging optic nerves.
What the
More
fuck,
fluid pressure
dude?
in your head
Monka.
causes an errant message that your body
Something.
must have too much fluid. So the bodies of zero-G travelers respond by producing less blood. Astronauts can lose up to 22% of their total blood volume while in space, leading to weaker, atrophied hearts. Away from Earth's protection, radiation from the sun
Maybe it's not
and
as
the rest
fun
of
as
the
you think
universe
being an
is
astronaut, right?
incredibly dangerous, and we're still not exactly sure how to best guard against it. Mice exposed to levels of radiation expected during interplanetary journeys showed signs of different brain blood flow and larger plaques of the type found in patients with Alzheimer's. Psychologically, feelings of isolation in space, thinking about just how far away you are from the rest of humanity, can affect you physically. Scientists working at the South Pole have developed compromised immune systems with fewer T cells. As for the shape of your body, fully grown astronauts in orbit, no longer pressed down by Earth's typical G-force, experience spinal expansion, sometimes
shit, I
growing
need
by
this.
as much as 3% before they come back to Earth. A 6-foot-tall human can go to space and come back as a 6-foot-2-inch tall person. Without usual and necessary stress, bones
This
in
is,
space
is how you
atrophy
fix the posture.
at a rate of about 1% per month. Given enough time, total bone mass lost can be as high as 40 to 60%. And when weightless, you don't need as much muscle strength to
Excuse me?
move around. This causes the muscles of people weightless in space to atrophy. Those that you use to fight gravity can shrink 5% per month for a total muscle mass loss of 20%. It's all kind of scary and sad, but don't bother crying over
decreases
it
it by
because
like
without
40%.
1G to pull them
So-
down, tears don't work the same way in space. Astronaut Chris Hadfield makes excellent videos about how things happen differently in orbit. For instance, tears just pool up on your face due to surface tension. In space, you can cry, but as he says, the tears don't fall. We know that these problems exist for adults in space. Theoretically, they would affect developing children
Can't even
in
cry,
space
man.
even more so.
All alone.
Parallels have been drawn between the way a child's skeleton would likely develop in orbit and diseases that cause weak and soft bones here on Earth. Bones that break and heal according to different forces than the typical downward ones, like rickets. It's tenable to say that without proper precautions, exercise, and care, like adult astronauts already take, children developing in space could look like this. Not because of rickets or a lack of vitamin D, but because the usual forces and active use required for healthy bone development just wouldn't be there. Added to the other threats, imagine a
Okay,
body
dude.
shaped like this, but with thinner legs, thin, weak muscles, a puffier face, poor eyesight, and a higher than usual proclivity to dementia later in life. Doesn't sound very good, does it? Remember, though, that a lot of this is speculation. Few studies have been done on the topic, and few are planned for the future. We don't even know if a healthy fetus can develop in the first place, or if conception can even occur in space. When I think about how little we know about our bodies and how our bodies might grow and develop in the larger universe beyond Earth, I like to think about plankton. These little guys live in the ocean, and they exist in staggering numbers. Many varieties are too small to even see
taking
individually,
off
but
pregnant
collectively
or
they can be
conceiving on a
seen
fucking spaceship
from
anyway.
space. It's
on the
estimated
fucking
that there are
planet.
more plankton
At least they
in
have
the
some
oceans
gravity.
of Earth than there are stars in our galaxy. More plankton on Earth than there are galaxies in the observable universe. And these guys wander around at the whim of ocean currents. They're wanderers. In fact, they get their name from the Greek word for wanderer, a name that they share with objects seen wandering in the sky. Planets. Plankton on a planet. Wanderers on a wanderer. Maybe, like
Hello,
ocean
Sebastian.
plankton,
Which one
we
is
humans
worse,
are destined to
losing
wander
to oatmeal or losing to game which is made for children's?
Children eat oatmeal too, don't they?
far and wide, eventually also becoming more numerous than the stars in our galaxy. It's within the realm of what we can achieve. But before we start feeling too excited, too proud, keep in mind that we know very little about how our bodies grow and develop outside of this wanderer, this planet. And even
Just
though
make
we
artificial
know a lot
gravity
of older words
on the
that
planet.
sound like body,
Once you're at
fundamentally,
that point, you know?
we don't
Problem
even know
solved.
why we call these things bodies in the first place. And as always, thanks for watching.
Actually, can you make artificial gravity on a planet? That would be hard, I think. Can we make artificial gravity on Earth that's stronger than Earth's gravity? Centrifugal force. Is that really is that an option? How would that even work? Let's say you try to make a station on a planet have more gravity so you can have healthy kids. I'm thinking kids in a fucking centrifugal, just here, have some gravity. They're just spinning around. I can't picture it actually being like normalized. Would you get pushed outside then? I mean, let's say you're in a house, alright? In a house on planet Mars. You want to make the gravity higher than Mars' natural gravity. You're not on a fucking space station that can create easy artificial gravity with rotations. You cannot rotate the planet faster. So what do? I guess just you spin it. You spin the house. The house is built. Oh, the house is built on a platform that rotates. But then the gravity is to the sides, right? The gravity is to the side of the cylinder. You would have to place it like a Ferris wheel, wouldn't you? You would have to build it like a Ferris wheel for it to push you down. But if you build it like a Ferris wheel, won't you go like a hamster wheel at one point? How do you prevent it from going into a fucking hamster wheel scenario? Physics with Forsen.